Hello everyone, this video is part 1 of 2 of this complete demolition and rebuild of the shower area into a walk-in shower with full Schluter waterproofing, a large niche, and a few other convenient features. Alright, let's get started. First off, I am going to reuse the baseboard, so I am carefully removing them and numbering each one. Once that is done, I am going to remove all of the ceramic tile in the existing shower enclosure area. The only really tricky part about doing a demolition like this is that you do have to be careful to try to cut away the space so that you don't damage all of the drywall. We did not have to redo any of the drywall, we just overlapped the tile, and that tends to save a lot of time and hassle to try to match paints and other things like that. Doing this kind of demolition is surprisingly easy. All you really have to do is break the ceramic tile into chunks and pull them out. So I'm sort of working in little quadrants here. Normally you just remove all of the fixtures and this process is a little bit easier, but there was some issue with the pipes. I could not get them off, including the bottom fixture, so I just broke around it. Now for the remaining drywall with no tile, you can leave this and add waterproofing, but I find that it's a lot harder to make everything plumb if you do that. So we got super lucky. We had about 7 feet of crawl space, so we just went right in there and I cut the pipe so that we can remove the fiberglass enclosure. Also, I did not get film of the removal of the enclosure, but once you cut the pipe, it's really easy, you just pull it right up. Now on to the very small little floor on the outside area. They have particle board beneath, which is a nightmare. If you don't remove the linoleum or other surface, you're never gonna get that stuff off, so yeah, taking off particle board is probably the absolute worst case in terms of flooring. It falls apart really easily, you have to work really slow. You can see me doing that here. Just as an aside, when I see horrible water damage, it's always particle board, so if you have a choice, do not use that as an underlayment. All done, the whole process takes about a day. Very, very quickly. This shower build is going to have a large 12 by 24 horizontal niche. I am cutting the stud in the middle, which I will later reinforce. A little trick right there, you can use a triangle and keep yourself square. I cut half of it and the rest of it I just cut with a multi-tool. You have to be extra careful to not damage the wall so that you don't have to do any kind of patching. In this case, there's actually a tub shower behind that wall, so I have to be very, very careful not to damage any of the waterproofing. Yep, so you just work really slow. Right there I'm cutting the screw, and this guy's about to pop off. Now I'm just going to cut a bunch of blocking for a little trick that I'll show you in a minute. Just cutting a bunch of little squares. So the simple little trick to keeping your niches level is add some blocking to the framing, and then when you put the long piece of the 2x4 going across the studs, it'll always be level, just like that. I like to leave just a little bit of clearance so that I can adjust it up and down a bit. Putting a piece of thin set right there helps to keep the 2x4 steady. Also, I am going to make a lot of framing adjustments than I typically do for a shower build. Normally you don't really have to do much, you just put the new walls up. In this case, the customer is going to want 3 grab bars and a couple other things, so lots of framing adjustments. So, all done with all the framing adjustments. On the back wall there's going to be a grab bar, then there's going to be a smaller grab bar on the left side as well, and a shower handle. So that's what all the blocking was for. The floor was not level. Since I'm going to be using a prefabricated pan, I needed to make everything perfectly level. There's a lot of ways to do this. I just used some thin set and some screeds, and I manually made it level, but you can use self-leveler just fine. I did get a lot of comments on previous videos what kind of thin set I use. Essentially any LFT mortar thin set like this Tri-Lite adhesive works great. Cutting these Schluter boards, it's really easy, especially because they do have a grid, so you can just follow the line. I did get the 8 feet by 4 feet pieces so that I could put a single piece on each wall. For anyone not familiar, what I'm doing right now is called wet shimming, and you can do it with LFT thin set mortar. No, I did not forget to cut out the niche area. I like to cut that after, once everything is dry, so that I can fish it perfectly between tiles. It's just much easier to do it later. So this wet shimming trick, it's really important. You can only do it with a type of foam board or a dimensionally stable board. You cannot do it with things like cement board and HardieBacker. Has to be foam board, otherwise it will crack. Thanks to the wet shimming trick, all I have to do is put that stuff on the wall and then pat down my level and make it nice and straight. It helps to fix small deviations within anywhere between 1/8 of an inch to 1/2 inch. Now I just need to cut the prefabricated pan to size. I'm not going to use a dry pack this time because I only have about 1 inch of clearance and these are fairly thin. So I do not have enough room to do a dry pack. These are really easy to cut. You just score them on the surface and then tap them down and they snap. A lot of what I do in the day is I prepare for when I'm actually going to be putting the material. So here I am dry fitting the pipe to make sure that everything fits correctly, because most of the mortars do dry fairly quickly. So yeah, I'm just cutting the pipe. See, that is the dry fit right there. Yep, really important to get everything sized up before you put the mortar down so that everything dries at the same time. One of the main reasons that I use dry pack instead of these prefabs is because they're so easy to do incorrectly. So you do have to back butter, meaning the putting things behind it, and you have to put mortar on the edges as well. It has to be fully covered. If there's any gaps, it's gonna break. Unlike the Schluter prefabricated pans, these collars are fairly foolproof, really easy to install. Schluter Ditra, which is what the flooring material is here, another thing that's awesome. It's really easy to install. I usually wait until the next day before I start screwing anything in because I do not want to deflect the walls since the thin set behind the walls hasn't dried yet. But once that happens, once everything's dry, then I just put these little metals and then put the screws in, as well as the banding. The only real trick to adding all of the banding is just to remember to put little squares onto all of the screw holes to try to keep all the integrity of the waterproofing. This is just the collar that comes with the kits. It helps to mitigate the water. It's not really all that necessary since you do have the valve cover that has various things to keep the water out, but I just like to add it. It's just another precaution. The tile's fairly sensitive to things that are not flat, so any mortar that you leave on any of these collars or any of these bands is going to probably show on the tile, so trying to squeeze all that out is really important. I find that cutting all of the banding, especially for the niche beforehand, really helps to speed things along. So that's why you see that I already have it with little notches. I made a bit of an amateur mistake here. It wasn't a big deal and I did manage it, but you can see that things are coming out differently and that it's pushing against my my tool there a little more. I let the mortar dry too much, so be really careful with that. You want to make sure that the mortar is not dry, or it's not too dry. Now for probably the most important part of this entire shower enclosure area, you want to make sure that all of your corners in the shower pan have this banding and the little prefabricated corner pieces. You do need to buy those. You can't build your own. If you do, it's not going to be waterproof. I'm going to do a water test, even if it is a walk-in shower. It just gives me peace of mind. So I am doing the water test by just essentially building my own enclosure and putting a little piece of 2x4. There's the banding. I sort of cut the pieces beforehand before I put the mortar. I did it this way because I wanted to show it in the video, but if you're doing this yourself, you can also, instead of putting a 2x4, you could just put expanding foam. When you put the water, make sure that the water doesn't go past that. It's much easier doing just that. Again, I did it this way because I really wanted to show building it in an enclosure with the stud, which is how Schluter recommends. Just in case the area ever overflows, I also did put banding around the entire perimeter of the inside of the shower area. To complete the water test, just add water in there, make sure that you get a stopper that completely closes the drain, then place a couple of buckets, as many as you need. Place a line somewhere right above the water and wait between 24 and 48 hours. If the water is still at that level, then it passed the water test. The final step is just to take off your temporary enclosure. That's it. Full Schluter waterproofing for a walk-in shower. Don't forget to check out the rest of our videos and to see part 2 of this walk-in shower build. Thank you for watching.